I don't know how these motherfuckers didn't get writer's block while they were making this show, because every episode is just like some new question arises. There's some new mystery, and everything else just goes unanswered or like kind of barely hinted at. It's really impressive. But I think this episode finally like kind of really illustrated what the show is really about. And not like, I don't mean like the mysteries, like all that Severance stuff, but there's a deeper message to the show. And I think this episode has been the most clear about what that is. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, but let's talk about this episode. This is episode 6. 4 more episodes left. We're zooming, Marvin. This is a good episode. I feel like I say it every time, but this might have been my favorite episode of the season so far.
It's a good one. I don't know if it was my favorite. It definitely was a good one, though.
I loved it because it was a little bit toned down.
It was a lot in there still. Like, it wasn't like any crazy revelations or like crazy settings or anything, but there was certainly a lot that was happening in this episode.
Well, it was all character development, really. It was just the repercussions and or changes and consequences of everything.
Yeah.
So this
felt like a really strong character development episode for everybody, surprisingly. There were a couple little surprises in there.
There were a few confessions and a few decisions, and that's really all the episode was, is a couple little confessions and a couple of decisions that revealed a lot about each of the characters.
We get a lot of stuff with Mark and Helly and kind of them still dealing with the aftermath of Ortbo, which is funny that became like the major turning point in this season for like everything, right? And she's still dealing with the fact that like
came out of nowhere.
That Helena was like pretending to be her and got intimate with Mark, and he's dealing with it, and he obviously feels bad for her because like he cares about her, but it highlighted the thing that we always talk about, and then I mentioned to you guys, like I had to like really drill it into my aunt's head about it, and like that, like the innies are complete individuals. They are like wholly individual people, despite being in the same body. And we always knew that.
Before we got to the Helly and Mark stuff, we got one kind of important thing happening too, which when they were talking about the elevator, the hallway to the elevator, and the map that Dylan found. So I wanted to ask, because I don't remember and I didn't go back to check, but did Dylan actually put the map back, or is he lying?
He did.
To keep from getting in trouble. Okay.
He folded it back up and then he kind of slapped it back there. He didn't really, but it's back there. Yeah.
When we talked about that episode last week, Marvin, we were like, did he put it there because like he was going to not tell them?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I was kind of leaning towards that he wasn't going to tell them because he had, he didn't want to jeopardize like him hanging out with his wife and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was actually really surprised that they just came right out with it, and he was just like telling them what happened. Like he was being super honest with them. And
I was shocked too.
Yeah, because the other thing that we talked about last episode too is that like it almost feels like what happened in Avengers, like before Thanos came to town, the group was fractured and weakened and like at their very bottom. So that way, like dealing with the enemy is that much harder for them. And it's funny because Helly like literally says it verbatim in this episode. She's like, none of this is real. She's like, they're just trying to separate us and divide us.
Right.
And so I actually really liked that it was, they kind of just dealt with it and got to the point of it. And that we, the audience, don't have to deal with like the stress. It's kind of an overdone trope. I get it. But I hate in movies and shows where they do that, where like your characters always go down this like arc of like, splitting apart or not trusting each other or whatever. And then they come back together when they figure out. It's like a rom-com thing too. It's like in a rom-com, they always have like something sours it before they get back together. You right over there, Dusty? You look like you're having a fucking aneurysm.
No, I'm fine.
Oh, okay.
He's reintegrated.
Dude, you look like...
Yeah, no, I was just trying to process what you're saying.
Bro. Yeah, Marvin, you're quick. You're good. That was good.
I was thinking I should do some stand-up comedy in another life.
You might have to.
So I want to get to a couple things, just more questions. Obviously, every episode there's like one half answer, and then there's like 5
Yeah.
to 7 more questions per episode.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
So we get Milchick talking to Miss Huang at the aftermath of his
He was flexing.
his annual review, and he mentioned this wintertide material. Is there any significance to this? Like, is this another operation name, like Cold Harbor?
I thought that
Like all of
too.
this cold and like winter themed stuff makes me think it is probably some type of thing.
They're in perpetual snow.
Yeah. And is Miss Huang like an AI or
Hard to
some
say.
shit? Like, is this one of their, like, is something weird with her?
Yeah, there's people online that say she's a clone, or that like I had mentioned that she like if they're raising humans from the ground up here,
Right.
like she's
She
part of
could
that.
be, yeah.
Um,
That's kind of the vibe I get from her.
I
She's
don't-
like basically born and raised by the cult. So she's like completely, and they're like teaching her to get rid of her emotions like at a pretty young age, which is
Yeah.
interesting.
I compare everything to my experience working at Geico because this is a lot like as much
Peak corporate.
as much sci-fi and shit that this show has. It's like it's really about that. It's like about corporate life really, and what it's like
Yeah.
to work in this type of environment. And even Ben Stiller, I've been watching interviews with him from time to time, and he talks about that too. That's like the core of the show, is like really like illustrating that feeling. And so it just felt like when he mentioned that, it was just like a young leadership program of like, you could be in my position someday too if you just work hard. Marvin actually said too, that he gets the impression that Milchick is not so much sold into the cult part of it, but he's just treating it like a job. And so
Yeah.
if
that's
he
what I
was
think.
if he was put in a management position, like you see it all the time in this
It's the same shit. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, you completely change
like you could-
everything about yourself
Yeah.
in order to climb that corporate ladder. Like, it's
And when you become a
kinda
manager,
fucked.
the way you talk to other people, because I did it too. Like I was a manager at one point, and I was just
very
it's the same.
condescending,
Well,
very.
I wasn't condescending. I was actually a dope boss. So I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Mm.
So,
So
yeah,
Mark reveals that he and Helena had sex. Helena, not Heliar, and she gets upset.
Yep.
Rightfully so, I think.
totally. Well, she's not mad at him.
This-
She's not even mad. She's just like upset that she was robbed of the experience.
Yes,
And she feels a little bit violated. Like again,
as one would.
yeah, this is my body that she's using for her benefit.
Yeah.
And
He's
so
basically telling her, I had sex with your body, not you.
it's like having sex with somebody while they're sleeping, really.
Yeah.
Which
Oof.
yeah. Tying that into the beginning of the episode with Dylan admitting to them and them having this conversation, Helly's like, let's just go get the note then. Let's go find it. And
Yeah.
they're a little bit like hesitant or whatever. Dylan for obvious reasons, Mark for obvious reasons. And she's like, nah, I want to get this shit taken care of. Let's go.
I got a hall pass still.
Yeah. I really liked the fact that they, again, cut the shit and got right to the point of like, nah, they're not going to separate us. Like they're not like their tactics aren't going to work on us. So Helly and Mark, they're kind of like dealing with the aftermath of this, and they decide to have sex again. And she's like, well, I want to experience it for myself. Do you want to do that? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. And they go find this like little office space with like plastic covered desks and computers, and they make a little tent, and there's a little
Yeah, it was
love making scene. It was actually really cute. I wrote that exact thing because it was really sweet, and it reminded
Was.
me, and I don't mean this to sound like gross or inappropriate or anything, but it reminded me of like being a younger person, perhaps a teenager, when you have sex for the first time. It like had those kinds of
Yeah.
vibes to it because
Same vibe.
they
for
were
sure.
both nervous and like, you know, kind of innocent, and like they were being playful about it and spazzy. And
Mhm.
so, like you said, it was kind of cute because like they really like each other.
Yep, it was great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was still essentially that. It was her first time and his second time.
Yeah, exactly. That's why
Yeah.
it's like it's so funny that they treat the innies as like they're kind of like kids. And there's more of that too with Mark when he's talking to when he gets the nosebleed after the fact because he's obviously reintegrating.
Yeah.
And Miss Wong, this is a really funny scene. Miss Wong is like doing like a little bit of like a medical procedure to stop the nosebleed. She says to him, she says, "Do you want me to put do you want me to put petroleum jelly in your nostrils? And he's like, no, I'm good.
There's a little scene before that and kind of after that too. I was correct about Dylan's wife falling for his innie a few episodes ago. I pointed that out.
Yes.
And
not to
making out with your husband's innie is egregious.
You think so?
I think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know. I told Christina, I was like, she would fight herself over me, I feel like. And if
after seeing
like
how
that happened.
Exactly. After seeing how Helly R felt about Mark and Helena having sex, I'm like, okay, it's kind of clicking more that it's not the same as maybe we were interpreting it before.
So again, the episode leans very heavily on the fact that the innies are very individual people, right?
Yeah.
And so in that sense, it's kind of egregious because it's like she's cheating on her husband. But
exactly.
With her husband.
Well,
with her husband.
But innie Dylan represents everything that outie Dylan isn't in this case. I don't know if they're going to explore how deep they're going to explore it, but it does raise very interesting questions of like, you know, when people cheat, there's like the just downright dirtbag scumbag people who cheat because they just want to, right? They just want to have sex with whatever moves.
Yeah.
Purely sexual for them. Then there's the people that cheat, and it doesn't make it right, but there's the people that cheat because they are not emotionally fulfilled by their partner anymore. Or there's something else going on there where it's like there's just a loveless relationship or time has kind of just like degraded the marriage or relationship or whatever. And then they have feelings for somebody else. This is that, but it's extra complicated because visually he is her husband.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So physically it's her husband. There's no like issue there. And mentally he's just the things that outie Dylan isn't or no longer is. We already know he lacks direction. He lacks drive. He kind of has
has yet to become though, because
perhaps
they're very young versions of themselves essentially. So
that's a good point.
Yeah.
We see outie Dylan is like kind of schemy. He's talking over dinner. He's like, they're selling cars for cheaper. He's like, they're practically giving me money. And she's like, can you not like just jump and do the thing? Like, so he's just like an irresponsible guy. When they kind of like make out and hug again and all this stuff. That was just a sweet scene. And I actually feel bad for innie Dylan because he's like a nice, sweet man. Like
I don't blame him. Like I said.
So you think she's fucked up?
You said it. I mean, you said it's a different version of cheating, which is still cheating, right?
Yeah,
like,
but
it doesn't matter why you're cheating.
No, for sure. Cheat. But I understand why she is. Like, I mean, I think it's very clear that she loves her husband.
I get it. No, I get it. Yeah, I get it. We get more of Milchick, like right after that, basically. Mm-hmm. He's having a breakdown. And it felt like he was really punishing himself when he kept reducing his big words while talking to himself in the mirror.
Yeah.
It was very reminiscent of how he made the innies recite things over and over as punishment. So I'm thinking like it's got to be like a staple of the Lumen cult.
Behavior modification. Well, I mean, how they used to. We haven't seen a whole lot of punishment this season.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Built all
it's the same though
as
like
kind of left it hanging.
Yeah. It's the same though as like when I never had to do this in school, but like I've heard of people having to write the same sentence 100 times or 1,000 times, whatever times.
Bart Simpson has to do that a lot.
Yeah, like it kind of reminds me of that, honestly. So
yeah, well, it's behavioral, like Dusty just said. It's you drill something into somebody's head so much that eventually they just either get it or like, you know, they're gonna get it one way or another, basically.
Well, and there was the comment in the last episode, right, where they were talking about his performance, and they talked about the paper clips being backwards, right? And so then you saw him this episode with he's putting them
purposefully,
all on very purposefully.
That just further strengthens my thought that Milchick is not
bought in
because he's probably been there for a while to move up the ladder in the way that he's done. So he's like, he knows the bullshit.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and he's not severed either. So he,
is he? It made me think about Cobell because she gets, you know, when she's talking to Helena in one of the earlier episodes, Helena says, let's go inside, let's reset. And again, we theorize too, it's not just like, hey, let's reset the conversation. It's like, let's reset you and your brain. And it makes me think that these managers are kind of just on like this like revolving door where they just like recycle them almost.
Probably. They probably reset them and send them to another
That's what I'm saying.
office. For the most part, in the Severance episode, there's an obvious moment where you realize like, okay, he's at work versus he's not at work. But in this episode, it swaps in the middle of the episode, which happens right after Mark is like fixing his nosebleed, and he just snaps back to Outie Mark, and he's in the basement with the doc, and they're like trying to complete his reintegration, essentially.
Yeah, we're starting to see that it's ramping up the reintegration side effects, and he's basically time slipping. He's losing grasp on reality, and they're actually illustrating it really well.
The fridge was the trigger.
Yeah. They're illustrating it really well to almost to the point where, like, I mean, we the audience, we don't even know the time gap or whatever. We're just watching a scene in
When's
the
the last
office,
time he went to work? Actually,
and then he slips out of it and he's back home, and we don't even know how long it's been, how long that memory was, what we were just watching even when he had sex with Helly. I thought it was funny that Outie Mark is going to wake up and just piss all over the walls because Any Mark had sex a few hours ago. And he's going to be like, what the fuck? And
so he freaks out a little bit when they're going through that process.
Rightfully
and
so.
He's like, I'm hungry. And then he goes to this
Chinese restaurant,
Asian spot or something, whatever, for food. And guess who fucking shows up?
Helena.
Why are you here? I think she's trying to make Mark subconsciously not trust Heliar by being a bitch to his Outie.
I think she's on that Cobell crazy train. She just thinks he's fascinating and wants to get closer to him. Maybe I think Dusty's right. There's something about him that
see that.
There's something about him that he's like fucking Count Orlok. He's just got that aura, you know. like he
No, like, I think she's furthering the mission of Lumen, and she's
I think
because she got exposed, so she can't go back down, but she can still do things to sow division and divide between the Innies.
I think she likes him.
Yeah, she just wants to be close with him because she had fun inside with his Innie.
Yeah.
So now she wants to get to know his Outie.
You got to remember
see what that's all about.
You guys are giving emotions to emotionless creatures, which is crazy.
Remember, Marvin.
She's born and raised Lumen.
I understand, but remember in episode 1 or 2 when she cracked that little smile watching them interact on the camera.
Yeah, I do remember that.
I don't know if she just outright likes him. I think it's probably more the fact that she just wants what they have. What a happy ending it would be if when this show wraps up, Helena and Outie Mark are together. And they could just that'd be such a happy ending because then Innie, Helly, and Outie, the Innies could be together too, and there'd be no controversy.
I think it's a mix of infatuation as well as trying to keep him close because he is obviously important to
the project,
the mission. So
I don't know
what it is.
I wouldn't go out and say that she 100% has feelings for him or anything. She probably feels a connection that doesn't exist because her Innie has that connection with his Innie. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
That's what I think it is. I don't think she was there for any secret reason to like spy on him or anything. I think they want
not to
you
spy on him. Like I said, she treated him like shit though. She's
at the
like
restaurant.
I said, I think her. Yes.
I don't think so. She was being manipulative when she said his wife's name wrong.
Yes.
But I don't think that was manipulative to. I think that was just so he doesn't know that she knows like that she's still alive type of thing.
Oh, I mean,
because if he doesn't trust Lumen, we already know, like they all know that he doesn't trust the company anymore.
Yeah.
So she's trying not to like make it even worse.
I think she was just trying to gauge what he knows.
That was my first impression too. And then,
but I do think she's trying to like do some Jedi mind shit to make any Mark not trust Heliar because they were getting back on good terms, and she's probably aware of that. They got cameras everywhere.
That is true. So that's a good point. We get
Irv going to see Burt.
Get some
ham
and
probably Fields. Yeah, probably the most
Fields.
interesting part of the episode.
Yes.
Burt is having a nice ham with. Irv is having a nice ham with Burt. Glazed ham with Burt and his husband of many, many years. And it's a nice conversation at first. They're laughing it up. And all of a sudden, they explain the meaning of the name of the episode, Attila. And Burt explains, we used to call each other Hun. And it eventually just turned into us calling each other, saying Attila for Attila the Hun. And he's like, that was probably like 10 years ago when I started working at Lumen. And Fields says, nah, it was longer than that. It was like 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, no, it was 10 years ago, and kind of gives him a look. So clearly insinuating that Burt has been working for Lumen for way longer than the Severed programs existed.
Burt knows a lot more than we thought.
Or the Severed program has existed before and they rebooted every 10 years like the Matrix.
Could be. But even more mysterious than that, when Irv leaves, Burt says to him, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. He'll be embarrassed in the morning. He was just yammering. He was a little drunk. But I'd like to hang out again, kind of like with or without him type of conversation. And Irv goes on his way. And as he's walking away, the music takes a darker turn. And the camera goes back to Burt's face, and he's got like this kind of mischievous look on his face of like, oh, this motherfucker's up to something. I don't trust him.
But he's been severed since at least 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
He also invited Irving over so that the fucking meathead Drummond could go through Irving's shit.
Well, we don't know if the Severed program has existed for 20 years. Just that Burt has probably been working there for at least 20 years. Either way, he knows more than he's letting on.
Fields also alluded to Burt having drinks with his Lumen partner 20 years ago, which that stood out to me because I'm wondering if Burt is one of the first Severed people and may also be like invested into the Lumen cult corporation. I looked up the meaning of Attila. It also means little father. Which is interesting, seeing that father is also used a lot in the Lumen cult.
Very obviously, Burt invited Irv over so that Drummond could go rifling through Irv's shit. And we see a brief moment where Drummond is looking through Irving's stuff. When Drummond is going into his house, it's not like he's just breaking in. He has like...
He got keys to everything.
Bro, he's got fucking like 700 keys on that key ring. He was like a jailer.
And not just to the front door. He had a key to his freaking secret box of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So I think...
Goes deep.
I mean, we saw so many different contingency things in the security room, in the admin room. They probably have one that's like, do whatever the fuck I tell you to do. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, you get copies of the keys. You know, like it could they could be doing anything with those switches that we haven't seen.
Oh, yeah. So I mentioned earlier that I think this episode for the first time showed what this show is about. And I think it was always obvious, but for some reason it really stood out to me in this episode. They made a really concerted effort to focus on it, which is the fact that this show is really just about like what it is to be human, right? When you strip away like all like the mystery and like the sci-fi stuff and like the Lumen stuff and the cult and all this stuff, it's about what it means to be human. And that's like one of the things we've talked about, right? About like if whether they're cloning or creating life or transferring consciousness or whatever, it all comes back to that, like what it means to be human. And being human is a unique thing, as I've mentioned many times, among the animal kingdom. Like, and we don't know what that thing is. We don't know what consciousness is or any of it. But, you know, each of these characters are going through like very real emotions that, as far as we know, are exclusive to human beings. They're not exclusive to human beings. That's the wrong way to say it. But I think we deal with them on a conscious level than other animals. But like pain and heartache and sorrow and jealousy and like envy, I think the show is like basically an exploration of those things in a lot of ways. In this episode, just kind of, I think, really just keyed in on it because, you know, you have those emotional moments with Dylan and his wife, with Helly and Mark, and like they took time to focus on them and like really kind of like stay with those moments and kind of stretch them out. So I think that's like a purposeful thing. It's not just to be like, hey, look, they're in love with each other. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, I thought this was a great episode. It was like, I thought it was sweet.
It was good.
There were just moments that like really humanizes them. You're also starting to care about like people like Milchick. Like, oh, like he's clearly going through some shit.
I do care about Milchick. Yeah.
He's clearly struggling with something. And like we're watching him like, you know, do this punishment to himself. And it's, I don't know, it's just kind of like, yeah, it's like, fuck. Like you just witnessing people like deal with like very human things on like this grand sci-fi scale that's like completely enveloped in like dark mystery and shit.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I think that's what the show is really about. It's about what it is to be human and like the things that make us human.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so fucking like bizarre when somebody like Miss Huang or the way Milchick has been all through season 1, like everybody in this show, like those people, they operate as like less than human. There's just something off about them. You know what I mean? Yeah. Same with those doppelgangers in the woods a couple episodes back. Like they look the part, but upon further look, like when you look a little bit closer, something off about him.
I think Milchick is conflicted too. Like, because he's basically killed off the nice side of himself in this entire season. Like he hasn't smiled once this season, I don't think.
Nope.
And last episode it was like completely different. So it's either not that deep like I'm making it out to be. Like he could just be jaded and it's like, fuck this corporate job shit. I'm just gonna do what I gotta do and get out of here. But I don't know. It's something there.
But yeah, great episode. Look forward to the next one. Leave a comment, folks. Let us know your thoughts and theories on episode 6 of Severance. And we do this once a week, so consider subscribing if you have not done so to be notified when new videos go up. And leave a like and do all that cool stuff. So we'll catch you next time.
See ya.
Asta.